Happy Easter, and welcome to another episode of the Binge Chickens. We are looking at Doctor Who Series 3, so New Who Series 3 today, and I am joined by Alex. How are you going, Alex?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It is a long time between podcasts
It has.
for us, and in that time we may have watched up to Series 5 of Doctor Who.
And
so
all and all of Torchwood.
And all of Torchwood, yes. So we will be doing probably a few reviews over the next few days, just to catch up. But life gets busy, and so we've had time to watch, not so much time to talk. But we have Easter for that today. So yes, as I was saying, we are looking at Doctor Who Series 3. So we'd already obviously looked at Series 1 and 2 with the 10th Doctor and Rose, and Series 2 ended with the farewelling of Billie Piper as Rose Tyler. And Series 2 ended with a very sad Doctor in his TARDIS when a random bride appears. And his, well, I don't know if you'd say iconic line, but the line, doesn't he say what? What?
Yeah.
What?
It's sort of his hook into all of the Christmas specials, isn't it? It's the Runaway Bride, and then the end of this season, obviously with the Titanic as well.
Yes. So to start us off, overall thoughts of this season of New Who?
Yeah, I think it's a much better season than season 2 or series 2 with Rose and the 10th Doctor. I think there's a lot more really good episodes in this season. I think from memory, like as you said, it's been a while since our last episode. From memory, we sort of said series 2 was very average. There wasn't a whole lot of standout episodes from memory. But this series, you've got Blink, which is one of the most iconic episodes of New Who. You've got the Family of Blood and Human Nature two-parter, which is awesome. And, the finale three-parter is pretty fun as well. So a few pretty good. And there's no episodes this season where I was like, oh, this is a really, like, this episode really drags. So, no, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this season always gets kind of not a bad rap, but people tend to rag on this season a little bit, particularly after like the Rose Tyler season. But this, I absolutely loved every episode, pretty much. I think there wasn't really one, last series that what is it called?
Fear Her?
No,
I Love and
Monsters.
Monsters.
Love and Monsters. Like, there were no episodes like those in the series. You generally get stuck, and I think we actually went through this quite quickly because every episode is so good, and it was one of those things where like it would, and I know you've said particularly series 4. It's also very similar in terms of we'd finish an episode and see what the next episode is and be like, oh, let's just watch it because it's another good episode. So yeah, I think overall as a season, it's actually a really solid one. So I don't understand why at the time it didn't maybe get the same positive, not positive reviews, but like, I feel like if you talk to Doctor Who fans, this season's a bit put down on. Okay. Let's just start from the beginning. So the first episode is the Runaway Bride, which is our Christmas special, leading into the season. And where we first meet Donna Noble. Thoughts on that episode?
Yeah, I think it was a good Christmas special. It was interesting, obviously, the twist at the end of the episode where she doesn't end up traveling with the Doctor. We sort of think this is our introduction to the new companion. I think the plot itself was fine. I think it was a good sort of flow. It was much more of like a normal Doctor Who story than, obviously this is only the second Christmas special we've had. Than the previous one David Tennant had just regenerated and wasn't really in the episode much. So that was more
No.
a regeneration story and more him coming to terms with him being the Doctor, whereas this was sort of a full-blown adventure, which was really good. It was a pretty sort of standard adventure, which was fun.
Yeah, it's a fun episode. It's a good intro to Donna. And I kind of really respect the fact that she says no to the Doctor, because most of the time you see the people go, oh, this whole new world, yeah, yes, I'll come along. And she just went, yeah, no, you're not ready for me.
Well, and it's interesting. I don't quite know the behind the scenes on it, but I'm not sure if she was obviously Catherine Tate, a really sort of well-known comedic actor in the UK. I wonder if it was sort of like with Kylie Minogue in the next Christmas special, if it was always intended to be a one-off, and she was so popular that they decided to bring her back. I wonder if, or if it was always intended that she'd come back down the track. I don't know, but it'd be interesting.
Watched the the Catherine Tate show, did you?
No, not really.
No, I loved it. So I was very excited to see Donna. I've got the DVD somewhere, so maybe we could watch that at some point. As well. So then My Bride leads into the introduction of Martha Jones as our companion. I know when we watched this, I totally forgot how it started, so I was very confused when you see the Doctor at the beginning and he acknowledges Martha and then keeps going. In terms of where he talks about his tie. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were, yeah.
I thought you were looking at me blankly and I was like, have I got this wrong? As an opening episode with a new companion, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it was a good introduction. Obviously, this was only the second companion that we've had now after Rose in her introductory episode. So it was sort of a lot of pressure to sort of set the tone for what it will be like going forward. Obviously, as well, I believe that she's the first person of color to travel with the Doctor. So at the time, I remember there was a bit of, I wouldn't say controversy, but it was a bit of like, it was a lot made of it in a positive way, which was great. I do like the fact that she's training to be a doctor, so we've kind of got an actual medical doctor traveling with the Doctor. Yeah. And the fact that, you know, he's not meant to cross his own personal time stream unless it's for a cheap trick, which I think is how he describes it at the end of the episode. So it was a fun way for him to prove to her that he's got a time machine.
Yes.
And we get the Jadoon for the first time as well. It was pretty cool.
It's a cool concept, that episode, I think. Having the hospital disappear and end up on the moon, and you meet those new aliens who are very much, you know, there for one thing only, that's to find the alien, which is entertaining. And we know there's the Doctor who is the alien. I mean, we have the Doctor also kissing his new companion, which led to an interesting relationship for them throughout the whole episode. There's some whole series that unrequited love.
I'll have a bit to say on that a bit later, I think.
Yes, Martha is the rebound. But yeah, I think it was a great intro to Martha, because we saw that she's like, not that any of these companions aren't necessarily intelligent, but she's intelligent. She was quite good in that scenario where everything was kind of going wrong. She like automatically took into, you know, duty of care mode as a doctor. And yeah, it was a great intro. We got to meet also some of the family as well through that, because then they play an important role obviously later on in the series. Okay, let's quickly go through the rest of this. Shakespeare Code, thoughts, and then we'll get to favorite.
We're gonna go through all the episodes. Okay, so Shakespeare Code, it was a good first adventure for Martha. Probably
I've got a barking dog on my lap. Stop it.
That's okay. You can maybe mute your mic for a bit while I'm talking, if that's easier. We've got Shakespeare Code. So it's a good first adventure for Martha, meeting a historical figure, which is sort of in line. It's interesting, I guess. Martha's first few adventures are sort of echoing the first few adventures for Rose, where we get Shakespeare now for Martha versus, you know, Charles Dickens for Rose. And obviously in the next episode, Gridlock, we go back to New Earth, which Rose goes to with the 10th Doctor as one of her first adventures with him. So there's a bit of an echo there between Martha and Rose.
Yes. I also wanted to talk about these two episodes because they were our first like proper episodes, and it's that, well, you know, we had the present day episode 1, past episode 2, and then future episode 3, and then we go into all the wildness of the rest of it. So I think it's, yeah, as you said, it echoes that Rose season, those Rose seasons, episodes, as well as gives us that clear intro that he's a time traveler. He can, work present day, past, future.
And
that makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, the interesting element in this episode as well is at the end when we see Queen Elizabeth I having had previous interactions with the Doctor, but the Doctor doesn't know her yet. So it's you know, something that's more typical of the Moffat era of things happening out of order in time. But we start to get a few of those things in these episodes, which is quite fun.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think my common sort of complaint or criticism or annoyance with these sort of historical episodes, and it was the same with Charles Dickens and it's the same with Vincent van Gogh, where they're really great fun episodes where we get this historical figure, even Tooth and Claw really with Queen Victoria, great historical episodes with fun sort of banter and references and things like that, and Agatha Christie as well, which we'll talk about next season. But the CGI of the monster or the alien presence sort of lets it down a bit because it makes it feel a bit more silly and sci-fi, when I actually like the historical elements of it more.
I just jumping in there, I feel like Shakespeare's Code, it's not, the CGI isn't necessarily,
it's not as
terrible,
bad, no.
Because they don't use that much. It's just the end when they're
and look, and to be fair, I think having them as essentially witches really does fit in well with Shakespeare. So actually, it's a really good point. In fairness, the Shakespeare Code is probably the best done one of all of those sort of quasi-historicals. I guess it's just a pet peeve for me.
Yeah, I mean, I watch this episode at least once a year through work. So, I mean, historically, it's got some pretty accurate stuff happening. So, I love it. It's one of my, I think, all-time favorites. Is I don't get sick of watching it. And then comparing that to just that future episode, because we're looking past, present, future. Gridlock as a way to introduce Martha to Earth, New Earth, in the year 5, whatever it is.
5 billion. I think it's 5 billion. 5
billion.
Yeah. But it's interesting because it's sort of, there's a face of, I think there's an unofficial sort of face of both trilogy, which is we've got the end of the world with Ninth Doctor and Rose. Then we've got what was it called? New Earth with Cassandra.
Yes, the Cat's Hospital.
In series 2. And then this one. So it's sort of an unofficial trilogy. What I found really interesting about this episode as well was that the monster or the alien in this episode, the Macra, I think had only appeared in Doctor Who once before, which was the second Doctor. So they used to, during Russell T Davies and Moffat, every season they would bring back a new classic Who villain or classic Who alien. And I think the gap between the Macra's appearance and the appearing in this was like the longest gap between appearances for a monster ever on Doctor Who, which is pretty crazy. And I don't think it's been beaten. So that was kind of cool that they decided to just randomly bring back this crab alien thing from a random second Doctor episode to have as the villain in this one, which I thought was quite cool. But look, it's a fun episode, another fun episode. I guess it's one that doesn't stand out heaps to me. I've never been a massive fan of the Face of Bow stuff because it just, I don't know, it's fine, but it's not really my sort of thing. But it's a good episode.
I thought the Macra were a bit of a weird alien. I'm like,
it was, they're very sort of
giant crabs.
And also, like, they didn't have a whole heap to do with the episode. Like, they were just, it wasn't even like they were, it's not like they were behind the events. They were just like chilling at the bottom of the thing.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like this is probably one of the weaker episodes of the season. Out of all of them. I guess the fact that the virus has shut yeah,
Well, yeah,
the city was sealed off from a virus kind of echoes a bit too much to what's happening in present times for my liking.
Well, I was going to say, it's almost like
But
the virus is more the villain of the story than the
yeah,
macro, because the virus has killed everyone.
yes, it was keeping everyone trapped under New York or New York.
Mm.
Yes. Okay. Look, do you want to keep going through each of the episodes, or do we want to go favorite episodes, least favorite episodes?
Yeah, or do we want to? We could talk about the season arc, or maybe do favorite and least favorite episodes first, and then we can talk about
Okay.
the arc. So do you want to go first?
Yes. Go least favorite first. As I said, I actually really enjoyed this season. And yeah, while I said that Gridlock is probably one of the weaker episodes, it's still a good episode. I mean, David Tennant gets like kittens, great. I think probably the episode
You're going to pinch mine. I can just feel it.
Yeah.
Feel it.
Okay, so there's like 3 episodes. One of them's a 2-parter. So the evolution of the Daleks. Daleks Manhattan to evolution of the Daleks. I feel like that needed one episode. And there's just too much happening. Like I get the Daleks, and that's probably why it was a 2-parter, because they're such a big villain. Particularly after the end of the last season. So I can understand why they dedicated a 2-parter to it, but I just, that storyline drags. It doesn't make sense. The Dalek human hybrid is like the most terrifying thing you've ever seen in your life. It's not pleasant at all. And yeah, just I got bored. I got bored in that part. And then probably the Lazarus experiment as well.
You have to say one, because otherwise you're going to steal mine. So let's so it's about Daleks.
What's your least favorite?
No, I was gonna comment. So Daleks in Manhattan, evolution of the Daleks. I agree. I think it's I feel like all these sorts of like 1920s American style episodes. Well, I don't know if there's that many other ones that I can think of, but this 2-parter just felt really sort of tacky.
Yes.
And weird as a 2-parter, and you've got Andrew Garfield doing a weird American accent, and
oh my god, the accents,
the CGI of the Dalek human thing, and like you said, and like the pigs and everything. There's a lot going on, but like it was a really sort of weak plot.
Yes,
and it's almost like, and when you look, like this season has 3 different multi-episode stories. You've got the Daleks in Manhattan, evolution of the Daleks. You've got human nature and family of the blood, and then you've got the 3-part finale, which means that there isn't as like that many stories. So it just feels like yeah, I don't know. It was definitely a weak 2-parter.
Yes, I think looking at like the series, like Gridlock was okay. Like it's a good episode. I'm happy to watch it. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. But then you go Daleks and Manhattan's evolution of the Daleks, the Lazarus experiment, and then 42, and I feel like that's like a string of just episodes that aren't that great.
That's definitely the lull in the season before you hit human nature and it just goes through.
And it's amazing. Interesting. I'm looking at ratings here. Like the UK viewers, I think obviously when it aired at the time, and Daleks in Manhattan had 6.69. The lowest rating episode was Blink.
Yeah, because and you know why? You know what I reckon the reason for that is. We're still going on a tangent here. I'll get to my least favorite episode.
We are not following any sort of run sheet.
You know my theory on why Blink was the least viewers was because it would have been advertised as not having the Doctor in it. So everyone would have said the last episode that didn't have the Doctor in it was Love and Monsters. It's going to be like that. It's going to be awful. Not going to bother watching it. And that's 100%. That's 100% the reason that people skipped it, because they were like, it's going to be another kind of bad episode that has nothing to do with anything. What's the point of watching it? Yeah, that's my theory. Anyway, so yes,
we've got that lull in the season. I didn't enjoy Daleks Manhattan. I didn't enjoy Lazarus Experiment. Didn't really enjoy 42. Like again, they're fine episodes, but they're not great. What was your
Yeah,
least favorite?
my least favorite episode was probably the Lazarus Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I guess my common gripe, the common theme with a lot of my least favorite episodes is always the poor CGI. I think in that sort of 2005 to 2010 era of the show, I think there was a lot of excitement to use CGI and flashy effects that we didn't really get to see in the classic series. But I think at times using practical, it's the old Star Wars complaint, right? Too much CGI, not enough practical effects. If there was a bit more practical effects, or just things unseen off the camera. We'll talk about the Donna season later, but Midnight is a perfect example where you don't have to have any effects, you don't have to have any visible monster, and it actually makes it scarier. Having the bloody CGI creature coming out of Mark Gatiss was not great.
No.
I will say one redeeming thing about this episode. It's the first, and we'll talk about the series arc later, but it's sort of the first overt references to Saxon. It's the sort of starting to hint at, the security agents talking to Martha's mum saying, this man's dangerous and stuff. So there is sort of seeds to the season plot, which redeems this episode a bit.
I mean, we do start to see Harold Saxon starts to feed through in the Runaway Bride, so that first Christmas special as well, because they've got the Vote Harold Saxon posters.
Yeah.
While they're
and the order
through
from
London.
Mr. Saxon to shoot down the star. Yeah.
So yes.
What was your issues with the Lazarus Experiment?
It's just, I don't know. I just found it boring.
I think current day Earth episodes in the Russell T Davies era weren't his strongest, is my sense.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think even of the Rose episodes. Obviously, Fear Her was essentially modern day Earth.
That first episode, Rose, is
that was
amazing, and that's on Earth.
But I think
that was an easy one. I think the Runaway Bride. I mean, the weird spider alien makes no sense to me. But then the aliens, are they meant to make sense? But
I think the issue with a lot of those modern episodes, it's always the same sort of plot. It's like alien ship above Earth that needs to get shot down, because we've got the Sycorax in the previous Christmas special. Then we've got the Christmas star and the Donna in the Runaway Bride. We've got, the Slitheen episode where they have their ship crash into the tower. We've got, Lazarus Experiment's a bit different.
I love it though.
But there's a lot of the same plot. For instance, we just watched Torchwood between finishing this season and watching series 4, and that's set just on modern day Earth, and it's done by Russell T Davies. But there's such a varied range of plots, which just makes me think how come there wasn't this sort of creativity in the Doctor Who episodes? I guess.
Yes, it's true. But I guess you can do a bit more with a more grown-up audience.
True. What was your favorite episode?
I was about to ask you.
Oh, well, I can go first. Sure.
Yeah,
I'll pinch first.
Well,
it's sort of a cheat because it's 2 episodes. So it's the 2-parter Human Nature and The Family of Blood. Controversially, perhaps, I'm rating higher than Blink, which I know is a lot of people's favorite Doctor Who episode. Talking about original concepts, talking about modern day Earth struggling for original concepts. This is a fantastic original concept in a sort of historical setting, where the Doctor isn't the Doctor anymore. He's got his consciousness in the fob watch, and he's living as a human man in this town. He falls in love. He's a school teacher, and Martha has to sort of bring him back to who he is. And we get all these complaints about PC culture and stuff and wokeness in current Doctor Who. You've got a whole lot of concepts about racism and sexism and other things coming through this episode. When there's the comments about Martha, I think one of the boys saying, how can you keep things clean? You don't know what's dirty, referencing her skin color. You've got the matron saying, how can you be training to be a doctor? Especially a woman, especially one of your color, things like that. And then she rattles off the bones of the hand, which is fantastic to just sort of shut her up. It's a great, and then you've got all the sort of the foreboding, because it's in 1913, I think it's set, so it's right before World War One. So you've got all the these boys are going to go to war, and the aliens again. The aliens aren't CGI heavy. They're human people. They've got scarecrows and everything. Really
Yes.
well done.
It is a great
Yeah.
two-parter.
Yeah. What did you think of it?
I agree. I love those 2 episodes. I do think the David Tennant sooking at the end about having to become an alien, like become the Doctor again, drags. I feel like they could have shortened that dialogue up a bit.
David
Like, I
Tennant and
understand.
dragging emotional scenes? Never.
Oh God, yeah, I know. Keep it short and sweet. And like that would be the only thing I would change to that episode. I think it's great. I think having the humans as the host bodies, the actors they have as the aliens do it so well. Like they're so creepy. It's good.
What's his name?
He's from Game of
Danny's
Thrones as
brother.
well.
Yeah.
Viserys, no?
Fantastic. Yeah.
And then you've got Thomas Sangster Brody, I think that's his name, as the kid who steals the fob watch. So the never aging child from Love Actually, who gets those glimpses into the future. And so, yeah, as you're saying, you get those glimpses into World War One. And these boys are like training for this, and you get those echoes, and he gets bullied, but then he ends up ultimately saving one of his schoolmates while actually in battle. And you know, he's seen that because he's got the fob watch. There's just a lot of layers to this, and I really like it. And it's nice to see the Doctor kind of falling in love, like legitimately, and not having to like, you know, always have a wall up, I guess.
Sorry, just to just to interject. So actor who plays Viserys and is it forget what his name is in this series, but his name is he's Harry Lloyd, and he's the great grandson of Charles Dickens.
Yeah,
the more you know. Sorry to interrupt. Continue.
Interesting. No, that's all right. That's a fun fact. Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're great episodes. Now, my favorite would probably be those 2 as well. I do also enjoy Blink. I mean, it is a
we got to talk about Blink. Yeah,
Blink is a great episode. I think it's better on your first watch, obviously, because you know what the twist is, the end, if once you've seen it. So in terms of like that, keeping you guessing, it's a great episode. And it's obviously still enjoyable on a rewatch, but you can't relive that first time you watch that episode.
No.
And I have a total crush on Carrie Mulligan, so having her as Sally Sparrow is amazing.
And having just watched her in Promising Young Woman as well, it was fun sort of watching this around the same time.
Yes. But it's a cool concept.
Yeah. I was just going to say on rewatch it's fun because you've got the first scene where you see the Doctor on the TV screen and you have a better understanding of what's actually going on. Yes.
But yeah, it's interesting to have these angels. I know at the time when I first watched it, I was just like, statues, cursed. But it's a cool concept, and yeah, for an episode that doesn't have the Doctor in it, it's got some of like his most iconic lines, like time is a wibbly wobbly, whatever the line is. Timey-wimey, hard to explain. Yeah.
It's like Moffat
machine that goes ding.
It's like Moffat looked at Russell T Davies and said, "You don't know how to do a Doctor Light episode. You did Love and Monsters. I'll show you how to do a real one." And just casually whips out one of the classic Doctor Who episodes.
Yeah, and it's a classic for a reason. It is really good. Do I think the Family, Blood, Human Nature episodes, I think they're better because you get more of a story arc. For that one episode that is Doctor Light, it is fantastic. It is engaging, and even as a non-Doctor Who fan, you'd really get caught up in it because it's not too ridiculous in terms of the aliens and things like that. Like, it's actually believable.
I was just going to say, I mean, arguably on a technicality, you could say that Family of Blood and Human Nature are also Doctor Light episodes. You only really get the Doctor at the end of the episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you were saying you had a hot take on this season. So maybe before we get to the finale, or is your hot take part of the finale?
No. It's probably that David Tennant as the Doctor hasn't actually aged that well. That that of his 3 series, and we'll count the specials as part of the Donna series. None of his, the Donna series I think is his best by far, but the specials plus the Martha series in particular, slightly less the season with Rose, he's actually a bit of a dick, like he treats Martha pretty poorly. He's pretty self-indulgent with Rose and pretty obsessed with her and how incredible he is and all that stuff, which is fun. Like, it's fun to watch, but he's a bit of a dick. And I don't know if he's really, like, he used to be my far and away favorite version of the Doctor. And I'm like, well, on this rewatch, I'm like, well, he's kind of falling down a few pegs.
Yeah. I think I'd still put him as my favorite. Like, if we're looking at new Doctors, because my probably all-time favorite is Pertwee. I love Pertwee so much. If we're looking at new Doctors, I would say Eccleston is my number one. And
that's what this rewatch has shown me. I think Eccleston, for a while I was like, oh, I can't have Eccleston as one because I would just be saying that because he was my first one. But I think he's got to be my clear number one.
Yeah. And like, I know we haven't finished watching the whole new series yet, and I know we're planning on doing that, but I can already say that Eccleston will still be my favorite one because I know the newer seasons I really have not engaged with. So I would still say Tennant's my second favorite. And yes, the next series is probably his best series. Because I think he'd settled into the role. And I think with the direction as well, like this season, he's meant to be moody over Rose. He's just had a breakup, essentially. He's a moody, I've just broken up with someone, and Martha's my rebound, but she's never going to compare to Rose, and it's really shitty on Martha. It's not fair on Martha at all.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
And sort of, as I joked just before about, the overwrought, drawn out emotional scenes, there's a lot of them in David Tennant's run. Like, I mean, even with Donna, it's not as much because Donna, I think, has really good chemistry with him and they bounce off each other really well. But even in that season, we've got Fires of Pompeii. You've got his finale in The End of Time, which is probably one of the most drawn out regeneration. Look, it's fun, but it's very self-indulgent of Russell T Davies, it is what it is. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love Tennant, and I think I know it's sacrilegious to say that he's not a great Doctor, and I think you look at him in the 50th special, and I'm like, his version of the Doctor is good, but his stories and some of the elements of his Doctor, I'm just no.
Yes, no. But you got to remember, it's not obviously like this the direction in the writing.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not criticizing David Tennant necessarily. I'm just criticizing the 10th Doctor.
Yeah, I think he's very erratic in his moods, and I feel like Eccleston did the light and dark really well, and was able to play that, like, in terms of that again, obviously also comes down to the storylines, those like shifts, and like he would shift quite quickly from being happy clappy Doctor to I'm ready for revenge. I feel like they've just added an extra layer with the 10th Doctor where he's also like depressed. And that's that undercurrent through like the whole time for the 10th Doctor, is that he's just sad about the fact that he can't have companions, or that his companions always end up in not the best way at the end of their run, and that he's depressed because Gallifrey's gone, and he's depressed because he can't change things, and he's depressed because of this, and that manifests itself in anger. And you've got the Time Lord Victorious, I mean, that's later on, but it's just a lot of just sad.
And I think, really good comparison with Eccleston, because a really good example of Eccleston versus Tennant is when Eccleston realizes that the phrase bad wolf is following them. Well, when he notices bad wolf in that episode with the Slovene, and he's like, bad wolf, it's following us everywhere. And Rose is like, yeah, I've heard it before and stuff. What does it mean? And he's like, nah, it's just a coincidence. And then they just keep going. It's sort of that really good light and dark with him. With Tennant, it's just like, it's all kind of dark. And, he has his fun moments, but it's,
I think, and this is where like looking at old Who in particular, you don't get so much emotional depth from the Doctor. Like you get all these adventures and it's about the adventure. It's not about the arc. And this is my issue when we get to the Moffat series as well. The arc, and when they've started to embed these arcs, and like the Eccleston one worked really well. You know, the Saxon, like they work well, but having all these different layers, which then like all come together at the end, means we have a moody Doctor for the whole series. I don't know. It's I feel like old Who, yes, it was contained very much episode by episode. And so yes, you'd get your Doctor, you know, being psycho, like what's his face, trying to whack poor
Colin Baker,
Perry. But he didn't run deep. Like it's not like he'd have an episode, something would go wrong, he would mope about it, and then next episode would be fresh. If that makes sense. Like each episode was a fresh, or each story was a fresh start. The fact that all these stories are all put together and things like that doesn't allow for that fresh start. So you can get moody, I'd say teenage-esque Doctor.
Well, maybe that's a good segue. Maybe we can talk about the arc for this season.
Yes, the sound of drums. But okay. It's basically a 3-part finale that we have here.
Oh, it's about the finale? Okay, yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry, the arc leads to the finale. So our arc is Harold Saxon.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about the fact that it comes up in a few episodes. We've got the posters, Rhino Bride. You've got the people contacting Martha's mother in the Lazarus experiment.
Is there a reference in 42? I'm trying to think.
Yes, there's a no, not 42.
Because they have that the trivia questions. I thought maybe there was a reference to it, but no.
I think there's some posters.
Yep.
But there is like references to Saxon through a lot of these episodes. Obviously not the ones back in time.
And also another element
surrounding Martha and her family. Like they're the link to Saxon.
Well, and I was going to say, and then another element of the arc, not specifically references to Saxon, but of course Face of Bo saying you are not alone as well.
Yes. Yeah, so there's that reference there that there's someone coming, and that leads us to our 3-part finale. And that person who's coming is not Jack Harkness, but he's there, and I love him so much. After companion forever.
After watching this 3-part finale, we did start rewatching Torchwood, and probably watched it slightly in the wrong way around, because the Torchwood series 1 finale does lead directly into Utopia with the Jack hearing the TARDIS and rushing off to meet the Doctor. But yes. Well, so what did you think of the finale then, the 3-parter?
I thought it worked well as a 3-parter. I loved the Master coming back, and I love John Sim as the Master. I think he's fantastic. He has a good level of chaotic energy.
In these episodes, yes, I agree.
Yes. I know we can talk about that later on, but yes, he has a good, like, just crazy chaotic energy. Like if we were doing those D&D charts, he would be like chaotic, chaotic neutral, but chaotic, whatever the chaotic. But yeah, I think it's a fun 3-parter in terms of leading up to it. So we get that watch, we get that callback to Human Nature, Family of Blood, with them discovering that Professor Yana has the fob watch, and it's Martha who makes that realization that it's got the Gallifreyan, oh my god,
symbols on it. And that his name's Yana. Yana. You are not alone, which I thought was quite fun. Yeah.
So I think it was good because you kind of watch Utopia, and I didn't realize until the end that like this is what leads into the finale. I forgot that I knew that Yana was the master. Like I remembered that, but like I got so caught up in the episode that I was like, he turned into the master. I was like, oh crap, we're at the finale already.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was actually a good. I like Utopia as an episode. The sound of drums is great too, and them running around and trying to, beat the master, I guess. And then we get the 1 year later in Last of the Time Lords. We get the weird age doctor. We get Toclafane, who then eventually links us back to Utopia. So it's all like, I think as a 3-parter, because sometimes these two-parters struggle. So the fact that we have a 3-parter that actually works, I think was pretty good. Yes, not all of it's great, but in terms of all working together and linking back and making everything clear, it worked really well. I enjoyed it. And I love that it's Lucy who ends up killing the master at the end. Like, that's just great. Anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I did really like it. I liked the stuff with Jack, and I liked the stuff with the master coming back. I thought that was all really good. The second episode is fine as well. I think whenever you have a 3-parter, the second episode's kind of like pacing. It's just like you can't resolve anything, and you're also not setting anything up, so it's just sort of
Well, they were setting
happening.
stuff up because they were setting up
Yeah,
the
that's
Archangel, the Toclafane, all that stuff.
Yeah. The final episode wasn't a huge one for me. I think if I was talking about least favorite episodes, I'd actually almost put the last episode maybe in the conversation, only because the problem I have with a lot of the Russell T Davies episodes is he likes to sort of be like, I'm going to set up this impossible situation that they can't possibly get out of, and then I'm going to come up with this thing that's going to get them out of it. And it's always sort of like the more you think about it, the, like, psychic network that they're just thinking about the Doctor, and it de-ages him, and he's magical and floats and does all this. And I was like, oh, okay. And like conveniently reverses time so everyone forgets about the year that didn't happen. And it's like, oh, okay, fine. It's fine. It's but no, look, it was a good finale. I just, the Deus Ex Machina that got used, I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
I forgot about the psychic thing. That was stupid. I will agree that was stupid. I really enjoyed, though, the last episode, like Martha, following Martha around. I think that supports what I was saying earlier, is that we see in that Smith and Jones episode where we first meet her that she is capable of doing her own thing. Like, she's not, and like, I'm not saying that Rose wasn't, but in terms of
Rose,
she's
Rose
a
was always like,
companion who could very much
the doctor? I need the
look
doctor.
after herself.
Yeah.
And that this episode just completely supports that, and I like that we're following her around. And it's ultimately Martha who saves everything by spreading the stories of the Doctor. But in terms of the psychic, like, that's stupid. That is a stupid plot thing. The fact that they were able to conveniently rewind time and no one remembers, also stupid. It's like a cop out. Completely.
Because that's the thing. Because having this episode 1 year later, you're like, oh, it's like it's a year later. Like, there's all this stuff that's now happened. They can't undo it. They've just got to live with the world now. What are they? And it's like, oh no, we'll just unwind time. So, okay.
Yeah. Yes. But other than that, I think, like, as I said, I maintain that it's, as a 3-parter, it works quite well, because often there's 2-parters don't. Yes, there are some stupid things. I love the Toclafane end up being the people from
the kids
ship going to Utopia. But there are some. I will wholeheartedly agree. There's some stupid things that happen.
And speaking of the Toclafane, I didn't realize until it might have been while we were watching this or just before it, that they were originally a concept that if the BBC hadn't gotten the rights to use the Daleks in Series 1, they were going to have the Toclafane as sort of the new version of the Daleks in Series 1 against Eccleston, in that where that Dalek episode was. So that was sort of a concept from then, that they were like, oh, well, now we'll use it again in this setting. And so that was, it was a fun little bit of trivia I saw. But I think they worked pretty well as a villain, and being the sort of future of the human race come back, and it's sort of the paradox that the TARDIS is holding together. Yeah, I thought the concept was really good. It was just like the resolution. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the resolution was really. It's like it's like when people write creative writing stories and then finish it with, and then I woke up.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no
well,
way to annoy me
exactly, because
more.
it's you undo all the character development, all the progress of that 1 year. Obviously, except Martha remembers it and Lucy
And
remembers
her
it.
family.
Yeah. Do her family remember it?
Yes, so this is why
Yeah,
she
and
decides to not continue traveling with him because she's like,
yeah,
they've seen too much.
yeah,
I need to look after them.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so overall, we'll wrap this up. Overall
Yeah,
thoughts.
look,
You like things a rating? What would you give it out of 10?
I'm trying to remember what I gave series 2. I didn't give it a very high rating. I think I gave it like a
I think you gave an
6.5 or
8.
something. No,
Oh,
series 1 I gave a 9. Series
okay.
2 I think was like a 7 or something.
Okay.
I probably should have checked that before recording this one.
That's-
Look, I'll give this one a
we're
7.
in chocolate comas. My brain's not working. Yeah.
I'll give this one a 7.5. I think it was good, and it had like its high points were really high, like Blink, Family of Blood, and True Nature, really good. Few weaker elements probably count against it, and again, the Doctor really kind of grated on me in this season, and wasn't a big fan of his. And when you're watching it back to back with series 2, I'm just like, oh, okay, it's not really just a one-off in that series. It kind of continues. So yeah, probably 7.5. Like it's a good series. Wouldn't say it's my favorite series. But yeah, what about you? What did you think of it? Maybe not with a rating,
look,
but
yes, I don't like giving things numbers. I would happily rewatch it. I think there's some solid episodes there. And even the ones that aren't so great aren't terrible. So, it would definitely be rewatchable. And yes, the Doctor can be insufferable at times. But I do think him and Martha at the end of it, as much as he is awful to her, they do have good. They do work well together. I think Martha's a great companion. And it's nice that she ends up coming back in like Torchwood and then in later seasons as well because she's a great companion. And yeah, I think it was good. It was good.
yeah.
It was better than season 2.
Yeah, I think we can agree on that. I think series 2 is probably the low point. Maybe some of the more recent series when we get to them.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe rival it, but series 2 is probably the low point for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, make sure you give us a follow if you've listened to this whole 47 minutes of us rambling. And like us on Instagram. We're at the Binge Chickens. On social media platforms except for Facebook. Because who uses Facebook anymore? And let us know what your thoughts are of the episode series, the Doctor, Martha as a companion. We're really keen to see what you all think. And we will see you very shortly for our next episode of Series 4.
Definitely. See you guys.
Bye.